Okay, class, we are going to study about commercial trade policy. Why do we need a commercial trade policy? See, whenever two countries trade within themselves, it needs to be governed, by both the markets. At times, there need be to make certain strict policies as compared to the others. Whenever this commerce or this trade is happening, you can call it trade policy, international trade policy. These regulations dictate about how one individual from one country shall behave with another individual of another country. Now, uh, the measures used by the government can be tariffs, it can be quota restrictions, it can be uh, subsidies. So these three kind of tools, you can say, which is used by the government shall be studied later when we study about protectionism. Right now, let us understand what are the arguments in favor of free trade. What is free trade? A free trade can also be called as a laissez-faire trade. It means that the government does not discriminate between imported goods. Like there are no certain such rules and regulations in place where you are discriminating an imported good versus your domestically grown good. So it is a free trade, which is based on Adam Smith's theory. And one of the major advantages of it is that it gives you specialization. When there is free trade, each country will specialize in its own production. It will give it will use the resources optimally, efficiently, and that will allow the laborers or the producers to really specialize in that production. So that is one advantage of free trade. It gives all round prosperity. It leads to higher production. But when we talk about prosperity, it does not, really affect the underdeveloped country. That's one disadvantage. It really, the policies are not in favor for an underdeveloped country, but when you come to a developed country, it is advantageous because they already are in a place where their economies are established, the industries are established. But if it is an LDC, they are really struggling, they have infant industries, so they need to be time to be allowed to have their feet in place, the foundation in place, and only then you can allow a foreign country to come and to sell their goods in our country. So that is one disadvantage which will come later. Then we have competitive spirit. If you are having free trade, if you have no restrictions, you have countries all over the world who are coming and selling the products, there is more exposure to the industries to see the kind of technology they use, to see the kind of specialization they have, and hence it will allow them to grow or to develop their products. It also gives more choices to the consumers. All right, so that is one thing. Accessibility of domestically produced goods and services. Next, we have international cooperation. When you are allowing goods and services when you are allowing goods from other countries to be sold in yours, these other countries will have strengthened ties with yours. Okay, if certain raw material is needed, there will be no such discrimination because of good relation. The cooperation economically, politically gets more stable. Next, we have free from interference. When there are no such rules, there are no such policies, the bureaucracy or the corruption really sticks its nose out of the business whenever trade is the topic. So interference really steps out when you talk about free trade. There are certain disadvantages. One I spoke about is LDC. You are really destroying the home industries and products, especially in the lower developed countries. There is inefficiency because the inefficient industries of your country is really neglected. Then you have danger of over dependence. If there is any kind of economic or social, economic or political instability, at that point of time, if the foreign country wants to pull out from your economy, what happens is that because of the over dependence, your country might slip down to depression because the fall in demand. So that is one dangerous disadvantage of free trade. Next, we have the last disadvantage we will talk about is penetration of harmful foreign goods. These harmful foreign goods can be, like one example can be drugs. If you're not really restricting the sale of such foreign commodities, you have a disadvantage of harmful commodities being sold in your country. How do we protect the homegrown industries? How do we protect the consumers now? The government needs to keep in place protectionist policies. Protectionist policies are, there are three kinds of protectionist policy. The first one is import quotas. Import quotas means the government of our country is limiting quantities. Quantity wise, it is limiting the import of goods over a period of time. So, if suppose, let's say, Switzerland-based company wants to sell butter in India. That is a direct competition to Amul butter, which is a homegrown brand. So what will they do? They will tell them that, hello, you can just sell these many quantities of your product, and more than this is not allowed, or more than this we will put tariffs on. So the uh, homegrown brand Amul gets an advantage that they don't have to compete for a larger quantity of goods. That is one advantage of import quotas. Next is subsidies. Subsidies are nothing but an aid, which is a help, which is given to the homegrown or the domestic industry to boost their production, to boost their sales, certain kind of cash payment, or easy access to loan, or giving them tax break. Any kind of subsidy which is given to the domestic industry helps them in boosting their sales. Like the third rule or methodology used for protectionism are tariffs. Tariffs are nothing but taxes which is placed solely on the foreign goods. That is a kind of discrimination which is done by the government to incentivize the consumers. See, let's go back to the example of butter from Switzerland. If the country wants to discourage the consumption of butter, what will it do? It will levy tariff or taxes on that brand. Now that brand is not going to is not going to pay taxes from their pocket. Obviously, the prices of that product will increase. Once the product's prices increases, consumers will incline towards buying Amul butter. They will not be in a position to buy from the Switzerland butter, or you can say they will be discouraged to buy it. So these three are the types of tools which is a protectionism tool. Let us see the advantage. A direct advantage will be on the homegrown industries. You are allowing them to grow. Your balance of payment is getting better because you're discouraging imports and encouraging exports. You are allowing your homegrown industry to have a stand, to diversify, to then there are strategic arguments that at times of war, at times when if suppose we are importing raw materials, at that period of time, if there is a time period of war, at that point of time, if these raw materials are inaccessible, you are overly dependent on them. You have to remove that kind of dependence, and hence protectionism is advantageous. Anti-dumping. Dumping is when a country will sell goods in our country at a price lower than what they sell in their country, in their home market. This is to harm the domestic environment. This is to harm the domestic industries. And hence, you need to have tariffs in place that will really help, some anti-dumping measures that will really help the industries of your country. Tariffs and protectionism can also be a kind of counteract. If your goods are being tariffed in another country, you tariff the goods from their country. That is one protectionist policy. All right. So these were some advantages of protectionism. Disadvantage will be that you will not have exposure. You will not have competitiveness. The effectiveness or the specialization goes away. There is high cost for job creation. Ineffectiveness of the tariffs. At times, the tariffs really there is risk of these tariffs. There are some case studies that we can go through later. Then we have stagnation of technological advancement. When the foreign countries are not coming to your country, when their goods are not being sold, you will really not have an understanding of what is happening with them, of what kind of goods and services are they producing. So you are economically isolated. So both free trade and protectionism has its advantage and disadvantage as well. There needs to be understanding about the economy of your country in order for the government to decide what policies are apt. Okay, so that was about protectionism and free trade. Thank you.